Welcome to the New Digs podcast. We're your hosts, Samuel James.
And Caleb Granstrom. All right, so today we're going to be talking about something that's actually pretty close to my heart, and it's something that I've kind of been talking about and thinking about over the last, 2 or 3 years or so, and that's, origin and upbringing story. So, for Sam and I, we both have very differing growing up stories. For me, that was, I was an Air Force brat, which sometimes I don't like that statement, but it's one of the easiest ways to sum up how I grew up.
I mean, Brad's true.
Hey, you're so mean. Yeah, but for me, being an Air Force brat meant moving around every 2 or 3 years. So basically, I've lived in 8 different states growing up. I went to 3 different high schools. So for me, a lot of my life and a lot of my, these last 21 years has just been really chaotic and moving from place to place. And then there's you, Sam. You have something else, which is...
Yeah, I've done my own fare of traveling, from the bedroom to the kitchen, back to the bedroom, that's about it. No, I've lived in the same place my entire life, and I think that definitely offers a very different perspective because I grew up and, I was completely immersed within the one culture my entire life.
So obviously we both have 2 completely different upbringing stories and just home culture. For me, home culture was almost dispersed amongst the United States, whereas you said it before, you lived in one place your entire life. And I think, like you said, that offers a different perspective on life. It offers a different perspective on the personalities that we have. And I think that it's something that is very recognizable, is that we are 2 different people, obviously compatible in friendship and all that, but we've we have different ways of approaching things. We have different ways of thinking and looking at relationships and the future and stuff like that. So I think it's very interesting, and I hope that this is a good discussion kind of to compare and contrast, but also just to talk about, what it's like to, I guess, talk about your identity and where that comes from.
Yeah. So for me, my identity is rooted more in small town culture. Growing up on the river, I was a river rat growing up, and just kind of being immersed in nature. I have a pretty humble background where we never grew up with air conditioning or heating and that such. If we wanted to cool off, we'd go jump in the river, or we just chilled in our basement because it was concrete and it would preserve the cold from the winter. And then the winter, when we wanted to be warm, we split wood and put it in our wood stove. But I really enjoyed it because I have a lot of memories from just, going out in the river, playing with my brother, sister, and friends, and just trying to go out and figure out what to do with myself, with what God provided me in the woods, or, just anything we had on hand. And so much of my identity has been rooted in that. You could say I'm a jack of all trades. I've done a whole bunch of type of work. I've done a bunch of work, whether it be from being a front desk clerk all the way to plumbing and septic and sewage and it's I've definitely, my life has definitely been on a spectrum. So some parts of that spectrum cleaner than others. But I definitely appreciate that, and I definitely appreciate growing up in one place because there was my family was there, my friends were there. And everyone was just there, and so I didn't have to worry about going a very, very far distance to go see someone. Now, the downside of living in a small town was that everybody knew everybody, everyone was in everyone's business, and so in that regards, I was a little drawn back. I'm I don't really want to be in all of that. But definitely, I think the way I grew up, where I grew up, was really amazing and definitely shaped who I am today and how I go about life.
On that, how would you say that small town upbringing does influence who you are today, kind of on a day-to-day basis?
I definitely think it gives me an appreciation for a lot of the bigger things in life. When I first came to college, just kind of the notion of seeing a stranger walk down the street was amazing. I'm just wow, I don't know that person? That's awesome.
I feel like you've told this story a couple times. You talk about how when you go home, you always want to dress well when you go to Walmart.
Yeah.
Because you're I know everybody, and I don't want anybody to see me looking trashy or weird or ugly.
It is a well-known fact amongst all small-town people that if you have a Walmart or you have some kind of store that everybody frequents, if you dress like trash, you're going to run into everyone. If you dress well, maybe run into a couple people, but if you do, you're going to be dressed well. And so it's just like, it's just my natural way to kind of avert.
Just like I came from a small town, and I did well. I am a respected member of society, and I go to Walmart.
I go to Walmart.
I go to Walmart.
Sadly, I don't know anyone that loves Walmart.
I think I love. We're gonna get off topic here. I don't love Walmart. I like Walmart. Personally, I love Target. I don't know why, but Target totally gives off a much cleaner and just better vibe. And like I've spent hours in Target, whereas in Walmart, I just feel like I want to get something and like get out.
Target definitely gives off the vibe that it's the well-groomed family member, and Walmart is the Uncle Chuck that you're
Uncle Chuck.
questioning whether he's drunk or not.
But for some reason, Walmart is probably a bigger. I don't know. I feel like Walmart is like a bigger company overall, or a bigger store. Obviously, like space wise, it's bigger. But I feel like Walmart is like more well known. You see more. I don't know. Do you see more Walmart? I feel like I see more Walmart commercials.
Oh, I don't really watch much TV, but definitely Walmart's bigger in small towns, I think, and then Target's larger in suburbs.
Yeah, I feel like in a lot of ways, because the smallest town that I've lived in definitely had a Walmart and a Target, but I feel like that Walmart was a little bit more frequented, but it was also like one of the most unclean and like unkept and almost like broken Walmarts I've ever been to. But like
Walmart's not a happy place.
No, it's not. I feel like I don't go to Walmart happy. I feel like I leave Walmart like the same as when I went in. Whereas I go to Target, I'm like, I'm kind of happy. Maybe it's red. I don't know. Maybe the color red is just like a better, happier color, and blue gray is just like blue collar. Meh.
Well, colors are important. But getting back on topic.
Yep, there we go. Let's do it.
So what was it like going from place to place, and how has that have affected who you are today and your identity?
I would say that just to start off with, like moving from city to city, I think that's given me an appreciation for different things and for different cultures, because obviously like within the United States there's a different culture for each state you go into, and even within that own state, I'm sure you can say this about Illinois, there's different culture from city to city, from like small town to medium town to freaking Chicago or something. And I would say that that's given me an appreciation for different things and for different cultures, and I think that that's good, especially coming into this university where obviously we are almost a melting pot. Obviously there's like still like the dominant culture of primarily white people, but there's also a lot of culture here and a lot of different ethnicities, and I don't necessarily think that like my upbringing has led to me appreciating different cultures, but has led to like me specifically, and like that being the point of my upbringing and the whole going from place to place. But I think that it has put me in a position to see those things and to see that that's like a really good thing. I would also say that it's made me incredibly adaptable, because for me, I had to go from one state to one state, or from one state to another state, and that meant going from one school to another, and going to a new school meant needing to be able to make new friends. Not necessarily needing to make new friends, but wanting to make new friends, and I had to kind of adapt myself to that new setting to be able to thrive and to be able to succeed in building those relationships. And I also think that that's something that moving around has given me the skill, is to like be able to make good friends, and to be able to make friends like quickly, I guess. I don't think it takes too long. I think case in point with us, it didn't take very long for us to just hit it off, and I think that that's something that's been a reoccurring theme for me throughout these last 21 years, is that moving from place to place has made me able to make friends pretty well, I guess.
Yeah, especially coming from a small town where there was a lack of diversity, it definitely, coming to college, not necessarily have like questions, but definitely had me seeking out different people, different points of view, different perspectives, and just different cultures. I think my friend group now might be the most diverse it'll ever be, just because after college, I feel like a lot of people start getting surrounded by like their work colleagues, and everything kind of shrinks a little bit.
Hmm.
But it's just crazy. Like, I could never have imagined how diverse my friend group is now.
I think especially in a place like here where you can literally go to from one room to another or one building to another and just see 10 like at least like 10 different ethnicities and different groups of people and different people with different passions and stuff like that. And like, since we share the same friend group, I can
Hmm.
testify to the fact that we totally have a diverse group of people that you could be doing completely different things with from day to day, different interests, especially food.
Yeah. Like, even back home, I would never have the expectation that I would make friends with someone who's from a completely different country. And now I've come here and I have some pretty good friends, and they're from countries all around the world, whether they're small or big, like Brazil or Uruguay or just wherever. And it's so cool just seeing how their own perspectives of American culture and what they think about it and stuff like that, and how it's affecting them, and then them asking me about like what my perspectives are on their culture and how we affect them, and vice versa. And it's just so cool. And it's definitely something you don't get in a small town, because it's very limited. And I'm trying to think of the theory. It's, especially with the internet, we're running into it now with social media. It's basically you're just like shouting into the same box. Like, it's definitely with advertisements where it's like it's just recycling the same thing, so you only kind of get your
Oh, okay, yeah.
point of view. I'm blanking on what it's called.
I can't think of it. I totally have no idea. I know what you're talking about, but I don't know what the name is.
Basically, that's what a lot of small town culture is. Yeah, definitely new ideas are short to come. And yeah, just the limitation of exposure to outside cultures, outside viewpoints, just outside like businesses and stuff like that. It's crazy when you go to somewhere that's bigger and it's all thrown at you. You're just like, whoa.
Whoa, it's not Walmart.
Yeah, it's just like, I want to experience all of this, but I can't do it all right now. Hold on. Like, let me just take this slow. And that's definitely a big difference I've noticed, because back home, I feel like life goes much slower, not in a bad sense, but it's just much more relaxed, much more calm, and you give a chance to breathe, and that's something I really appreciate about back home. Whereas when you come to like here in Champaign Urbana, everything's a lot faster.
It's so much faster. Especially because every day for us, at least, is class, 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 work, work, homework. Got to keep going. Got to keep going. Got to keep doing things because in college, the culture is like you keep doing because the resume needs to be updated. The resume needs to keep getting better. I need to, live while I still can while I'm still in college, because they say like, I hate when people say like your best years should be in college, because I swear, like, if this is as good as it gets, not that it's bad now, but I swear, if this is as good as it gets, I'll be very disappointed with the next like 80 years of my life.
Yeah. No, like, people say that about high school, and I'm like,
Oh
I hope
gosh.
not.
Oh gosh,
And then they
no.
say it about college, and I'm like, I hope
Like
not.
I'm not necessarily like disappointed with college, but I'm pretty. I think college is exciting. I think that this is a great time to experience a lot of different things, like what we've been talking about. I don't think that. I think that after school, after college here, I think there's a chance that I will go back to a life where there is less diversity, and so that's good. And there's a lot of awesome things to do in college, like making a podcast like this, which hopefully we'll be, maybe we'll be doing this after college because we'll get big. But for now, this is something that's fun to do on a Sunday afternoon during finals week. But I certainly hope that after college, I don't know, starting a family, getting married, actually doing the job that I'm spending 4 years trying to get ready for is a lot more fulfilling than this. And yeah.
Yeah, I don't want the average of my life to be a normal curve.
Oh gosh.
I want it to be an exponential function, for the nerds out there.
Gosh, so mathy.
It's just like, I don't see why life has to have a peak so early on. I think it just depends on what you want to do and how you go about doing that. It's just, if you want life to continue being good, make the right choices, and, put yourself out there to do the right things. And I think there's still so much life has to offer beyond college. It's just like, this is not going to be the best. This is going to be great, and I'm going to enjoy this, but there's going to be so much more, and there's going to be such good stuff after college that it's just like, I'm not going to limit myself to this.
Okay, so on the topic of after college, I feel like when I talk to small town people, there are two different
Oh,
mentalities when
yeah.
it comes to like what happens after you've gotten a degree or whenever you've entered the workforce.
Dude, it's that
It's
mentality
split.
starts before college.
Oh,
It is
okay, okay.
post high school
Post high school.
graduation.
Okay, those two things are either A, I just want to get out of here. I want to find something new. I just want to go somewhere else. Or there's the other side of things where people are, I want to go back to that small town and give back and just get back to that culture. Because I know that, especially, not maybe not especially, but for one of our friends, Cody really has the idea that he will eventually, after college, move back to his hometown, or at least near hometown. And I don't know exactly why that is, but I know that I like that he's been thinking about that, and for him, going back home is very important to him. Whereas with you, I feel like you are
I'm
closer. Yeah.
I am on the other side of that line.
Hmm.
I will be glad to leave and stay out. Hopefully I can leave the state. Which is it's not that I hate my hometown, and I don't think it's, well, for some people it's that they hate their hometown. They want to leave and they never want to go back. For me, it's just I don't think my hometown has anything left to offer me.
Hmm. Because I mean, if you've been there for like 20 years, it's just
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like you could probably accomplish everything or do everything that there is to do in a small town
Well, you
in a
can do that in a
year.
week, so.
Okay. Oh. I said a year and you went directly to a week.
No, it's just like I I think there's just so much more to life than the county lines that you grew up in. And for me, I don't want to be limited by that. I want to go out. I want to adventure. I want to explore. I also want to work, and I want to see new places, meet more people. And living in a small town doesn't really offer that. You just get the same old every single day, in and out. For me, it's just that's not the life I want. I wanna see greener pastures, per se.
That sounds so cliche. No, actually, it doesn't. Greener pastures.
Yeah,
That's a
yeah,
cool analogy.
yeah. So for you, um, what does life post college look like? We just talked about how small town you kind of have the two parties where it's like I want to stay home, and the other one's like I never want to come back. Um, Although those are dramatized.
Little bit, but probably true in a way.
Yeah. So for you, post college, post secondary education, what does life look like for you? Where do you want to go? Do you want to keep traveling? Do you want to stay in the same place?
I am so I am so tied. Not okay. Tied sounds like that's the only thing I ever want to do. But personally, I really just want to find a place to settle down. I don't want to like go somewhere and like this is where I want to be for the rest of my life. But I do want to go somewhere that I will at least be able to live there for at least 5 years, something like that. Somewhere that I can put down roots. I don't know. Have a favorite coffee shop or favorite couple of restaurants that I go to every month, favorite movie theater. And I get those things when I live somewhere, anywhere that I've lived. That's something that does happen, but it's something that, I don't know, it gets cut short. After 2 years, I'm going somewhere else and I'm doing something else. And I'm going to a new place, a new church, a new movie theater. But I just want to go somewhere that I could potentially go into some restaurant or coffee shop and be like, hey, Joe, the cashier that I see every single Tuesday at 4 p.m. after my work. I don't know. I do want something like that where I have like a neighborhood of friends, not necessarily like, cookie cutter home neighborhood where we're like doing cookouts every Sunday, but just like people that I can hang out with and do stuff with and that we have these shared things and we get to hang out for more than just a few years. Because that's another thing is that, the relationships that I've had have been, they last for the time that I'm there. And then the strong relationships, they do last past the time that I spend in a certain state. I've had friends, my friend Jason we became friends when we were in like 5th grade, and this was in like Cheyenne, Wyoming, and we hung out, and we were friends from 5th grade to 7th grade, and then we're still friends today. Like, I moved after 7th grade, and now, what grade is this? This is, I think I'm in like 15th grade. Probably not what you'd say. Like, I'm in 15th grade. I'm a junior.
In college.
I think that equates to being in 15th grade. So 8 years later, Jason is still one of my best friends, and that's really cool. But that's a very rare occurrence in my life. After moving, to 8 different places, I really only have one friend that I've kept a solid relationship for that amount of time. And I just want to be able to be somewhere that I can be friends with people for more than 2 or 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that I don't enjoy that friendship. It's just that I want to be there for it, and I want to be there to experience a place for a certain amount of time, because I think that, I don't know, that just sounds awesome to me. And I eventually, I'm not closed off to the idea of traveling. I still want to go see the world, and I know that that's something that's valuable, and I want to do it. But
you just want a home base.
I just want a home base. I want a house or something.
Somewhere to go back to.
I want a house with like my dog and my, I don't know, a movie collection that I built my own case for, and my backyard that I've put work into, and have like the section for my trampoline. I don't know if I plan on getting a trampoline out of college, but I don't know. I grew up with like trampolines for a couple years, so I want my trampoline section of my backyard, and I don't know.
Yeah, no, definitely for me, it is, I guess, more traveling, but we'll see. I don't know, I really want to replant my roots. I really want to go in, I want to invest in a new area. I want to meet a new community, and I want to try new things and grow more as a person. I definitely think small towns can stint your growth as a human.
As a human?
Yeah,
I was growing, and I stopped at 5'6". Now I've been this way forever.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, you only get that limited understanding of everything that's outside of the small town that you grew up in. So, I want to push my own understanding, my own learning beyond that. And to do that, I have to travel, and I have to go visit places, and nothing about that scares me or worries me. It's just like, it just sounds exciting to be able to push myself in new places. I don't know, like, it's just awesome. It's a grand adventure that I'm super stoked to go on.
Okay, I have one more thing that I want to ask you and talk about before we wrap up this episode, and I feel like this is a lot more geared towards small town people and upbringing, whereas with mine there's not necessarily a well-known trope that comes out of being in the military. At least I don't even know of some negative trope that comes out of that, but I feel like there are negative tropes when it comes to small town people and small town upbringings. I don't know, a lot of this I think is a little bit more geared towards stereotypes of people, small towns in the South, but I feel like, are there negative tropes that actually come from small town people? Is that a thing?
Nobody hates on small towns more than small town people.
What?
So those negative tropes probably come from small town people.
I would not have guessed that, actually.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah. From my own experience, Hicks, all that kind of stuff.
I wanted to say that word earlier, but I was like, is that mean? Maybe he'll say it.
Yeah, no, so Hicks, keeping the blood thick.
Rednecks.
Yeah, rednecks, that stuff. That's definitely stuff small town people talk about.
Close-minded.
All the time. And if you ever notice any conversations between Matt and I when we talk about small towns.
Also, Matt is one of our friends who comes from a small town, and he's got a personality.
Oh, he has a huge personality.
He's a great guy. We love him.
Yeah.
But he's got a personality.
That, and I think rivalry is probably one of the biggest things within a small town.
That sounds like something that you'd see in one of those Texas football TV shows or something.
I feel like talking to pretty much all of my friends from the suburbs, it doesn't sound like any of them had a huge rivalry. I mean, they probably had some.
But it was more of an idea versus we small town people, we few, we know those other small, like we personally know those people. They're jerks, and we want to beat them.
Exactly. Small towns rivalries are on. They're just on a level of their own.
Because I feel like rivalries are more tied to the actual people involved, whereas in, let's say, like the suburbs, rivalry is just tied to school versus school, and there are people on that team. Whereas for you guys in small towns,
Oh,
I
we
feel like
know
it's,
the other people.
you know the other
They know
people.
us.
It's like,
It's personal.
yeah, like you could live like a block away from the guy you're facing or something
Well,
like that.
probably
Maybe
not that close.
No,
Maybe
but
like 15 minutes away because
Okay.
they're in the nearest
Fair
town.
enough. You
But
might see each other at Walmart.
that is a possibility. You might.
Everything goes back to Walmart.
It does. For small towns, it does. Walmart's just the center of our lives, sadly. Yeah, rivalries definitely add to the identity of small town people. Because every town, okay, amongst all small towns, we all have towns that we cooperatively hate and we just dish on because they're just the scum of the lot. And,
That's so mean.
and then like everyone always has like a town that they wish, a small town they wish they would have rather grown up in. And it's funny because they'll like be like, oh, I'm from here, but I wish, and you're like, oh, you're from there? I wish I was from there. And then that person's always like, you don't want to be from here. There's nothing here. Of course, there's nothing at any small town. And so it's really funny. It's just kind of that cycle. And I don't know. It's just like talking to my friends from suburbs. It's like, I don't know if they ever experienced that. Also, we have the best bonfires. Suburb people don't know bonfires.
You told me about this before.
Yeah. And so, yeah, there's quirks and stuff from being in a small town that I really enjoy, that I think are hilarious. Others suck because, small towns, definitely not as much wealth going around, so worse schools and stuff like that. So just like anywhere, there's pros and cons, but it's definitely a funny culture. It's a very interesting culture. It's a very bored culture.
Bored as in
It's bored. Like if
boring.
Yeah, boring. Like
I personally feel like the one thing that I never really did in all the places that I moved to, I never moved to a small town. I never really want to live in a small town because I feel like I've heard about so many small towns that don't even have like a movie theater, and I think I'd cry if I didn't have something like that.
Like we don't have a movie theater anymore.
Oh, that hurts my heart. How?
So pretty much like anything, small towns are just built on boredom. People do stuff out of boredom, and I think that's it to it. Like in the DNA of a small town, you got boredom, and that is
boredom and
that
Walmart.
is dominant. Boredom and what?
Boredom and Walmart.
Boredom and Walmart. Yeah.
Walmart.
Yeah, I mean, people go to Walmart when they're bored just to walk around. That's
sad.
It's sad.
And I don't want to like hate on small town culture because it produced you and you're pretty all right. And so
yeah, it's just all right.
All right, like, just kidding. No, I've met a lot of three of my best friends now are small town people, and like, I don't want to be like, well, they're probably the best of the litter or something like that. But I just feel like there are a bunch of negative stereotypes that come from that. I feel a little bit better that those stereotypes probably came about from the small town escapees and the guys who got out and were like, no, that's true. That's actually what happens in the small town. Like, you are right. You are correct in assuming that negative stereotype.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, small towns are great for forcing you to become a creative person and making you go out and find your own entertainment.
Because you were saying that earlier when it came to, I'm bored, but I'm gonna go jump in the river.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas with like so many other people with so many other non-small town cultures, I'm bored means turn on the TV or something.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, I mean that's relatively correct in how I existed when I grew up.
Yeah, and so, small towns were choose your own adventure books, and like I said a whole bunch of times,
that's a cool idea.
If life is going to be adventure, you got to make it an adventure, and that's my aim.
That's pretty cool. This episode was not brought to you by Walmart, but thanks for listening anyway. Walmart was obviously the main topic of this episode. Just kidding. It was fun to talk about this. It was good to I mean, like I've been living with you for, a whole year, and I've known you for 2 years, and I've learned a lot about small town culture. But I also think that this was a conversation that did teach me a lot about small town culture, and I've also just loved talking about the upbringing because I think we both have two very different and unique upbringings, and it's been great to talk about this.
Yeah, it's awesome seeing how different people can grow up, and despite that, how great of friends we can be, and how compatible, and just how awesome that is, and we can share our differences, and grow from it. Thank you guys again for listening to our podcast. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and SoundCloud. Thanks for listening. Hope you digged it.